point, second, we will see that in detail, what is the meaning of biodiversity and what are the ecosystem terms, then concepts and service, how the services, what are the different services. Then third part is that what is happening to the biodiversity and ecosystem. So then finally, I will be discussing with the economic valuation methods. What are the different methods where we have to apply, and what are the contextual basis we will be discussing, and some examples. Finally, I will be discussing with two case studies. One is pulse-based ecosystem, another one is paddy ecosystem. So again, I will be requesting some of the participants to switch on their video. I could not see anyone is switched on. So next slide. So I hope economic theories, isn't it? So economic theories, if you see that first classical theories. So in order to achieve the growth path, equilibrium of the economy, they have suggested with the different proponents are there, different approaches are there. So if you see that classical economists, they were telling about free markets. So free markets and free of any interventions. Then we can see that that automatically invisible forces will lead to the achieve the growth path. That is the tools of classical economics. Then if we come to the neoclassical economists, so individuals. So marginal utility theories are first let individual get the maximization, then society, then village, maybe nation, then it will reach a maximum. That is growth path will be there. Then third point is the Keynesian economics. So what they have suggested is that in order to achieve the maximum growth or growth path, we have to see that major tools is aggregate demand, aggregate supply. We need to correct these things, then we can achieve the expected growth or growth path. Then some of the things now recently institutional economists. So they are saying that rules are law. So that is a major factor which determines your production activities or any other economic activities. At the end, the GDP or what is the maximum growth path we can achieve. So for example, if you see that in order to produce, for in case of agriculture, land, labor, capital. So okay, these four are the capital. These are the four inputs which we need to have. So these four inputs are sufficiently available in particular state, but the rules and what earlier economists were saying that supply, demand or market forces will interact, and finally we will be reaching what particular equilibrium state, which will be leading to the final stable state, or we can say that we decide economic growth. But if rules and laws which is not allowing, for example, land rent is leasing is prohibited in particular state, it may affect a certain production activities. Okay, so
Venkatesh sir, you are muted. Venkatesh sir.
I think sir lost his connection and he's rejoining.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry for the trouble. I think some issues with the net. Okay. Hello. Yeah, Praveen, I'm clear. Hello.
Yes, sir. Please continue.
Yeah. Now, institutional economics. According to institutional economics, so land, labor, resources, all the resources are there. In order to operate the resources, the rules which is being framed by the state government at the particular administration, that will determine the how much it will be agriculture output will be produced. So that is the thing they have told. That is rules and law. That is the major factor which will influence the growth path. Then if you come to the environmental economist. Okay, so in this case, if you see that earlier Acelius, Malthus, Jones, Marshall, they have also mentioned about the externalities. So in fact, the Pigu's measurement of environmental damage, that is the foundation for environmental economics. So he cited the example like negative externality. So factory smoke, how it will affect the factory smoke emission, how it will affect the other sectors growth. So that negative externalities he has found. So in recently, Partha Dasgupta and Malus, they have given the strongly told that GDP is a very poor measure of economic growth. It does not take into account the natural resources. So as on date, as per the environmental economists thought, it is that today's limits for the growth is natural environment. So if you have the major capitals, if you see that material capital, human capital, social capital, these three capitals only when we are taking mainly into account when we are calculating the GDP. But if you want to see that natural capital, that is the most important thing. Most important thing, that is soil, air, water, forest, fish. These are the natural capital. These things also should be taken into account when we are measuring the GDP, all those things. So, for example, material capital, you may be having the capital, machineries, you may be having. Human capital, health, education. Social capital is mutual trust. That means the person to person, the economic agent, maybe producer, farmers, agents, or wholesaler, retailers, their mutual trust. How it is there, that will determine the production activities as well as the growth path. So those things they have told. Finally, recently the natural capital, if you see, means soil, air, water. So as of now, if somebody wants to live, what are the basic inputs? If you see, earlier we used to say that food, shelter, cloth. These three things only important. So, but if you see that earlier we never thought that water also one day it will be priced. So maybe 10 years, 15 years back, we never thought that drinking water also will be priced. We didn't see. So in our period, drinking water, we never thought about that ROs or these waters. But now it is being produced. If you want to live in Delhi, especially during this October-November period, you have the sufficient income, you have the shelter, food, cloth, everything. But now new type of requirement or basic needs is that atmospheric air. So the air quality also now determines. So in future, next 10 years after, we may be needing of air purifier. Without air purifier, we cannot live. So that is the thing. What I mean to say is that till now we have not given much importance to the other natural capital. But if you are not giving importance, when it is being spoiled, then it is being forced to give the importance. Now we have to look after that soil. What happens when we drive the car? What happens to the air? So when we use some factory, when we produce some factory, where that wastages are linked, or where it is being used, or water quality is whether affected. Those things also we need to see. Now it's a high time to see all those aspects. So next slide, please. Yeah, in that context, in Indian context, if you see that growth approaches, what are the different policy interventions happened? So there are many growth theories. You would have seen that unlimited supply of labor, innovations, balanced growth, unbalanced growth. Many theories are there. So based on these theories only, if you see that since our independence, how our agriculture growth path has taken place, you see that all the inputs, land, labor, capital, or credit, whatever is the inputs you want, there was a systematic effort to give the more accessibility to the population so that we can increase the production. So that is the thing when 5-year plans are there. The first 5-year plan was focused on agriculture, and the first thing is that land redistribution has happened. And second thing is that irrigation is the major thing. So we need to construct some more dams. You can see that lot of programs are command area development programs, all 1950s, 60s. You can see that lot of dams being constructed. Irrigation inputs they have concentrated. Then comes to that seed. So what type of inputs we are using? Seed. So high yielding varieties we need to bring, or hybrids we have to bring. So once this high yielding variety programs, these hybrids are being introduced, then we need to have simultaneously other high inputs like fertilizers, and we need to have the pesticide. These things are also there. So you can see that all the act programs, everything will be there. 1960s, these things will be there. All the inputs we have defined, policies, programs, all those things. Then once production is there, means we need to have the credit in order to achieve, in order to apply these all the inputs, we need to have the credit. So credit, insurance, all those policy have come up. Once production is done, then how they will be marketed. So that is the case. Your price commission has come, CSCP has come, then warehousing come, then how the public distribution system or FCA, this systematically since 50, 60 years, you can see that there is a consistent effort to increase the production. So because our main, since independence, immediately after independence, our major problem was that hungers, these things. So food shortages, that was the major issues. Food security was the major issue. So government has targeted those areas first. Then recently food security from this food security, now we are targeting towards the nutritional security. Quantity we have achieved, now quality we need to achieve. So what type of nutritive foods are we taking? That policy focus is there. Okay, that is there. Now we come to that. Recently the people started to discuss about the environmental impacts or environmental effects, what is happening, all the economic activities, how it will have the impact on the environment or natural resources. So that is the question. It is right now it is being asked. So in that direction, if you see that since 2000 onwards, we have also looked into either our other scientist research reach the policymakers or other due to the international conventions or many conventions, we are also thinking to conserve these natural resources. So that's why this act and all, it has come now. So I will take some of the act like Biodiversity Act. So it has come in 2002, mainly to conserve the various elements of biodiversity, like genes, species, and ecosystems. Then recently we have thinking about that loss of land races, local land races. So especially the Kerala government has taken the Conservation of Paddy Land and Wetland Act, and they have promoted through local land races production through Wayanad package scheme. So these are the things we are going to see in the case study cases. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, these are the basic things. That is PPFRA, or PPFRA is the Protection of Plant Varieties and Farmers' Rights Act. There they have mentioned that about the mandate of conservation of plant genetic resources and how to conserve these things. What are the financial mechanisms? How to develop the local gene development fund? So those things are there. Then Biodiversity Act. So here that you see that some certain people, especially those tribes, they are considering lot of local land races. So those local land races are important for developing the new varieties. So we have the concept of two things. One is in situ conservation, another one is ex situ conservation. So if you see that in situ conservation, you think that we need to conserve the varieties. Okay, why we need to go for so much varieties in the field? Only you have it in ex situ conservation. All the varieties which are the, you think that these are the crops important, these are the varieties are important. You take that all the genetic material, germplasm, and save somewhere. Maybe conserve somewhere like in NPPGR, like the Plant Genetic Resources Institute is there, fisheries is there, animal genetic resources is there. All they have conserved. Then what is the need to go for the on-field? Any idea, anybody? Why? So ex situ conservation is so easy. We can have the controlled environment. We can conserve all the desired varieties in the one particular controlled environment. Then what is the need for why Kerala government is giving the importance to the conservation, I mean cultivation of local land races in order to conserve in the field. Rather you keep the same maybe 50 grams of that seed and keep it in the plant genetic resources. That's all fine. Why? Anyone any idea? Friends, are you with me? Any student? Any participant? Why we need to go for in situ conservation of germplasm or varieties? Why we are not only with ex situ conservation? Hello. Yeah, right now I am seeing Tamilalahi one name in front of me. Anyone can Hello? Nobody is there? Yeah, nobody wants to respond. Hello? Praveen, are you there?
Yes, sir, we are listening.
Yeah. But yeah, it is curse of the online class. Yeah, I could not see anybody's face. Now nobody is open. I can catch our students. Who is there? IRS students? Hello? It is very much boring for me to one side way. Yeah, Saila, I got Saila. Saila, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I asked some question. Can you respond? Any idea?
No, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, at least you people are there. Saila, at least you can switch on. Who is there? At least IRS students, I can take a name. Please switch on some of the people. We will have the what I'm discussing, whether you are getting or not. I want to see you from your face. That's all. Nothing else. So idea is that why I'm asking is that the question is that why we need to go for the in situ conservation, because the evolution of the varieties, evolution of the wild plants, sometimes some environment will occur according to the climate change or anything. Accordingly, the varieties which is cultivated in the field, it also will develop. Like your pests and diseases are in natural environment, they will adjust themselves, they will develop, they will be having the mutations, and they will be affecting your crop. Okay, but if you have all the varieties in the only in the store, I mean in the wherever it is being stored, but it is not having the natural evolution. So maybe if at all 1950 you have saved some seed, means that characters will be there. But last 50 years or 20, 70 years, there may be different climate change here. So according to the climate change, the pest and disease attack will be different because it itself getting changed. So similarly, we need to have the wild plants which is having the resistant genes. It also need to develop. Okay, so that is the reason that we need to conserve the local rain races. We need to conserve the wild varieties being produced. So in that case, if somebody is producing, foregoing his all the extra benefits, maybe high yielding hybrids may be giving very good return, but he is producing only local rain races, he may be losing certain level of income. So he need to be compensated. That is why this Biodiversity Act and all, here it has come that equitable sharing of benefit. I mean, if some of the companies are approaching the farmers or those who are considering them that varieties, they need to be share the benefit. If they are developing some varieties, means they have to share certain benefit to the farmers also. Those who are conserving or the particular variety, they also need to be paid. That is why this Biodiversity Act here it is being mentioned. So of course, conservation of paddy lands is, in Wayanad district, that is the case that we need to conserve. So since Wayanad is one of the region which is famous for production of local land races, but that region is being extinct from this local varieties. So government has taken the serious step. If those are they should cultivate paddy cultivation, and if they are violating that act, then they will be fined severely, jail terms also there. Again, recently in 2018, they have also started to give the incentives to the farmers. Those who are conserving those who are producing the local rain races, they have been given up to the extent of 10,000 rupees per hectare towards the conservation. So these are the policy initiatives. See, these policy initiatives, how it is being developed. Whatever the discussions, like us scientists, students, researchers, whatever the things we are doing, we are publishing our policy briefs, policy notes. It is the reflection of the society, what is happening to the country. So based on that, one day it will be discussed, it will be taken by the policy makers, then they will be taking it in the parliament or assembly, they will be accordingly take the policy measures in order to conserve. We need to conserve these things. So that is what I am giving the some of the examples which are taken in recent by some of the governments. So central government act is this PPFRA biodiversity, and some of the Kerala government has taken for local land resources conservation. Next, please. Yeah. Next. So before going into evaluation or all those things, I would like to give the basic differences between the goods, that is traded goods, non-traded goods. So this ecosystem services all will come under non-traded goods. So for example, any policy which is being taken, it will have the impact on traded goods. We can easily measure. There is a market forces, price is there, we can easily measure it out. So for example, any policy interventions given, maybe fertilizer subsidy. So how much it has impacted on the food grain production, that we can easily measure. Okay, but some of the policy options which we cannot easily measure, which may be having the ecosystem services, I mean ecosystem effect. For example, groundwater recharge into paddy cultivation. So we may say that the paddy is one of the most water consuming crop. But if you see that how much water is used for the production of the paddy, that is being taken into account when we are traditional method of cost of cultivation methods. But if you see that how much time, maybe 30 days, 40 days, if it is the total field is under water, as water is standing in the field, it may have the impact on the groundwater recharge. So we never take into account those things. Okay, that is the services. Groundwater recharge is one of the externalities from the paddy production, but we never take into account. So for example, recently one of the policy measures, like they have taken that there is crop residue burning. Crop residue burning, one of the policy suggestion is that you have to go for the whatever the crop residues are there, since it does not have the much economic value, they are just going for the burning. This is one fact. But if it is being converted into the electricity production, okay, that is being promoted and it is being given. One thing is that the electricity being produced is cost around 7 rupees. Okay, but your other electricity cost of production is only 3 rupees, 4 rupees, maybe hydropower or other thermal power, 3 rupees, 4 rupees. Okay, as such, if you see the cost, it will be 7 rupees. So some of the Punjab government, what it has given is that they have promoted some of the companies to come for electricity production. They are giving the agreement is that 8 rupees we purchase or 8.5 rupees we purchase, based on the cost of production is 7 rupees. So 1 rupees with the benefit. So government is losing around, I mean, giving subsidy around 5 rupees. Maybe other source it is only 3 rupees electricity per unit production. Here it is 5 rupees. So for example, 1 crore unit, I think they were producing about from one factory, they are producing about 10 crores. 10 crore unit is being produced. If you take multiplication with that, around 55 crores, 10 crores with 5 rupees are extra cost. I mean, extra cost when compared to these things. 55 crores they are spending. Yeah, 55 crores. Yeah, please, mic on. Somebody is mic on. Please. Somebody's please mute. So thing is that 55 crores rupees it is being spent. But if you see as such 55 crores extra rupees is being spent, it may see that okay, spend. But if you see the environmental benefit, it is never being taken into account. Only we are seeing that the 5 rupees difference is there. If you see the 55 environmental effect, how much if we are not paying, how much it will be affecting the residue burning, how much it will be having the air quality. Those things we are not taking into account. If you take these things into account, maybe this 55 crore rupees is, I mean, it may give more than 55 crore, maybe 100 crores also it will be giving benefit. But we never take into account the intangible benefit of any schemes. So that it's comes the major things. I mean, I just want to give the difference between the traded goods, non-traded goods. This non-traded goods, one of the things is the intangible benefits which is coming. It is not having the direct market value, but we have to have certain measures. Okay, next. Yeah, now I will introduce the concept of biodiversity. So it is nothing, biological diversity. Okay, it compasses all the terms like plant species diversity, animal, microorganism, ecosystem, all which they are part, all how much it is having the diversity. It's an umbrella term. So it's a variety of variety as well as its number, frequency of ecosystem, species, genes in a given habitat. It's a complete umbrella term. Biodiversity means all the species, how much it is diversified. It can be classified as different things. One is ecosystem diversity, functional diversity, species diversity, genetic diversity. So ecosystem is variety of communities of plants and animals within the particular habitat, particular location, particular things. If you have that ecosystem, how much plants, how much animals are there, what are the flora, fauna, how the composition are, that will determine the ecosystem. It may start from individual habitat, individual house. From individual house to it may go for desert, forest, terrestrial, coastal, all the ecosystem. It is a particular location, a particular habitat. Within that, what are the different communities of plants and animals are there? So that is the example for ecosystem. Then if you see the functional diversity, function means the particular ecosystem, it may give the variety of services, maybe supporting services, regulatory services like climate regulation, maybe it may be providing some habitat for the particular flora and fauna. So those things are functional diversities. Then species diversity means there is a variety of variety within the species and between the species. So this species level diversity also needed. Then genetic diversity means gene level diversity. Maybe particular species will have the particular gene. So it may have the, we need to have the certain, more number of frequency and a number also should be there. That is genetic diversity. So there are different diversity classifications are there. Next. Yeah. So agricultural biodiversity is nothing but agriculture biological diversity. So agrobiodiversity is it has a different components like variety and variability of animals, plants, and microorganisms at the genetic, species, and ecosystem levels, which are necessary to sustain key functions of agroecosystem, its structure and processes. So if you think that land, labor, capital, seed, these are the fertilizer, these are the inputs which is needed for the production. So any particular crop, maybe paddy, the paddy or which is why it is not being produced in a certain area, only certain area it is being produced, because the climate, along with the climate, the different flora and fauna existence, that also which determines the production nature. Even within the village also, one land to another land, it will be having the variation. Fertility will be there. The fertility, what we mean? Fertility, by fertility we mean that what is the different microorganisms presence and different soil properties. So, but we never take into account when we are working out the cost of cultivation, those things. So that is why this lecture is talking about those things. Next. Yeah. So there is a biodiversity which is based on the number, composition, and interaction. Then comes to the ecosystem services. From the ecosystem services, you can see that there are this Millennium Ecosystem Services classification is there. So they have a Millennium Ecosystem assessment. They have classified basically 4 services, that is provisioning services, supporting services, regulatory services, and cultural services. So if agro ecosystem, if you take any paddy ecosystem, pulses ecosystem, any production system, if we take, we may understand these things. It provides food, it provides fiber, it provides fuel, it also provides genetic resources, it also provides the biochemical properties. So these are the basic things it provides. Also, but when we traditional cost of cultivation methods, if you take, means only these points are taken into account. But apart from that, there are many unaccounted services. That is, it provides a habitat for the flora and fauna. So that is why that particular habitat is rich in diversity, and ultimately it is having the fertility, soil fertility is better. Then nutrients recycling, soil formation, soil retention. You know that without this barren land and cultivated land, their soil property will be different. So wherever the plants are, all those are there, their soil formation, retention capacity, everything will be different. So those things we are not taking into account. It also regulates, it also produces atmospheric nitrogen, it also recycles water, but these services we never take into account. Then of course it regulates, its climate regulation, pest and disease regulation. So all the ecosystem diversity will determine these things. If monocropping is the means in a particular one day some new species comes, it may invade entire field will be affected. So we need to have the diversity. So diversity and especially the pollination and all will be happening once the honeybees or more insects are there. The honeybees and more insects will come. Not only somewhere only with if only one particular crop is there, means it may not come. It may need different cropping systems in a particular village. One area may be having the paddy, another area may be having ajwain, another area may be having mulberry. So these things are required so that pollination, all those things will be taken place. But we never take into account. So we simply take the particular cost and particular tangible cost. But particular ecosystem will provide other services also. Of course, cultural services. So these things are diversity is required. It will give the knowledge system. So how much variety of plants are there? We need to teach our future generation also. These are the crops. Otherwise, one day our next generation may not see that what is the how would that paddy crop or wheat crop will be there. That may be a situation may come. So we need to consider all those things, but we never take into account those things. And it also gives the recreation values, aesthetic values. When you come across when you come across in a road, if the both the sides we have the field, you have the different mood. When you go with certain dry land areas, you have the different mood. So that aesthetic value will have the impact on the people. It gives a lot of aesthetic value. So we never thought if ecotourism, that is why new concepts are coming, agro ecotourism. So maybe one just drive with the field, both one road with both the sides with very good flowers, maybe greenish plants or production, but we never take into account those things. So slowly we have to look into those things also. Then whatever the value we are measuring today, we are paying, for example, 50 rupees is a paddy rice. Rice value today 50 rupees we are paying for per kg. It may not the true value. It is only tangible cost. That is land, labor, fertilizer, whatever the things it is being taken into account. But apart from that, it has many other services which we never take into account. If you take into account, maybe it may be 80 rupees, 90 rupees. Of course, it may have the positive externalities, maybe negative externalities. We have to adjust those things also. Maybe some of the greenhouse gas emission also will be there. That also we have to take into account. So next, please. Briefly, if you have the examples. So what is the relationship between the biodiversity, ecosystem services and its value? So some of the estimates says that if biodiversity is having the ecosystem, it may be having the recreation or water regulation, carbon storage, certain ecosystem, for example, forest ecosystem with the agro ecosystem, it may avoid greenhouse gas emissions. So with the greenhouse gas emission by forest conservation itself, it comes around value of $3.7 trillion per year. Similarly, species level diversity, it may have the pollination effect, all those things. We need to have the multiple species. Maybe certain insects also needed. If without that insect presence, you may not be able to produce certain crops. So in that case, if you put the value for the insect pollination also, it will come around $190 billion per year. So contribution of insect pollinators. Then genetic diversity. So in order to develop the new medicines, all those things, we need to have the variety of crops. So one of the estimate is saying around 25 to 50% of the US dollar pharmaceutical value comes from the genetical diversity. So we need to have a lot of diversity to see these things. Next, please. So I just want to give some brief about Indian biodiversity. So India is one of the 17 mega diverse countries of the world. With 2.4% of the land area, we are having about 7.8% of the world diversity. And plant species, if you see, means around 45,000 plant species we are having, which is 8% of the world flora. And out of which 33% are endemic. Endemic means nowhere else found. Similarly, animal species, 80,000 species are animal species are in India, and which contributes around 7% of the world flora, world fauna, and it is around 62% is endemic. Then we have 15% of world flowering plants, and we are producing about 167 species of cultivated plants, along with their wild relatives, are found in India. Then 50,000 rice varieties we have cultivated ones. About livestock diversity, if you see that 27 breeds of cattle is there, 40 breeds of sheep is there, 22 breeds of goats are there, 8 breeds of buffaloes are there. But unfortunate thing is that all are in the standing in verge of extinction because of due to exotic breeds of development. And our major biodiversity concentrated where it is located means Western Ghats, Eastern Ghats, Northern Himalaya, Northern Eastern Hills, Andaman and Nicobar Highlands, and mainly 18 biodiversity hotspots are there in the world, out of which 2 is located in India. So hotspots means the biodiversity, high biodiversity is there, but with massive threats are there. Okay, so we have 2 massive threats of biodiversity. Okay, next. Now, if you see that agrobiodiversity in food systems, what will change and what are the changes and how it will have the consequences. So once global agriculture, now the global agriculture food depends on only 3 crops, that is rice, wheat and maize, which accounts for 50% of world intake of calories, protein, and right now, and 30 crops are provides 98% of our food energy. But what happened now? Only 3 crops. I mean, 3 crops are producing these things. Once we used to produce around 7,000 plant species we used to produce, and 150 that are commercially being produced. But now we have come to the very narrow base, rice, wheat, maize. Okay, let it be there. What will be the problem? The problem is that once one crop is being, if you are depending upon only 2-3 crops, if one insects, one threat has comes, it may be we may be losing entire crop at once in a time. For example, this is the case now. Once such type of this COVID has come, entire life has changed. Similarly, some certain mutant varieties or disease or pest comes, we may be losing all the stable food crops. So that is why we need to maintain the diversity. Okay, next please. Yeah, there are 17 mega diverse countries. India is one among them. These are the mega diverse countries. Next. Yeah, some of the example for ecosystem: terrestrial ecosystem, mountain, desert, lake. Next. Yeah, now one more thing is historic changes in biomes. So landscapes around the world, what it is happening. So if you see that forest ecosystem, so it is providing habitat for more than 50% of the plants and animal species. But in last 300 years, 40% of the global area we have lost. Globally, forest area we have lost. And most of the 25 countries, 90% of the global, 90% of the countries forest area they have lost. And 100% loss is there in 29 countries. Second ecosystem is dry land, one of the highly rich biodiversity, relatively rich and secured one. But now 30% of the world cultivated plant, it is a home for 30% of the world cultivated plant origin. During the last 50 years, these dry lands are being converted. 15% of dry lands or grasslands are being converted to cultivated land, which has a severe impact on the soil salination, erosion, all those things are happening. And another ecosystem is inland waters like lake, river, mushrooms. So it provides around, I think in 20th century, about 50% of habitat we are lost. Among the species threats, the inland water species threat is among all the ecosystem, this is the most one. Then polar, what is the changes in the polar? So in Antarctic, the top predators in Antarctic region has decreased. what is the effect? It affects on the increase in the shrub dominance in the Arctic wetlands. So it has affected on the summer warming trends, changes in the insect abundance that changes the food availability, and rapid occurrence of invasive alien species. These are the effects. These are the effects are recorded across the world. And mountain ecosystem more diverse than the lowlands. Mountain is having more diversity, and 50% of the world biodiversity hotspots are here. I mean threats, where the high diversity is there, but it is having the threat. So that mountain ecosystem, one of the things. And most of the mountains, these things are 32% are protected areas. So government also they are also taking other steps to conserve those things. So 32% of the areas are coming under protected areas. Next, one of the example how the changes in the ecosystem and erosion of biodiversity is happening. So the left hand side it is showing that forest ecosystem, in right hand side it is showing that grassland ecosystem. The upper one is highly natural ecosystem, and towards slowly if we go means lower highly cultivated or deteriorated ecosystem. So here the mid one it is showing that mean abundance of original species. So green is that 100% abundance is there. In top 100% mean abundant species are there. Slowly it goes to the red line means the mean abundance of original species are declining. So highly natural ecosystem is having more diversity, like cultivated systems are having less diversity. That's what it is shown here. Next. Yeah. Some of the examples, if what is the effect of biodiversity on ecosystem. So it is generally established that greater diversity leads to the greater productivity in plant communities. Okay. In the some of the experiments in North America, they have told that 50% of reduction in the biodiversity will cause around 10 to 20% of loss in productivity. But 50% reduction in the biodiversity will lead to 20% loss in the productivity. So then you can understand the importance of biodiversity. Of course, that is why we are all now promoting for the diversification, crop diversification. That is government also now started to discuss about that, especially the Punjab, this Haryana, Northwestern plains. They want to try to go for more diversified crops rather than the paddy wheat. And it is also proved that productivity of monocrop field is less than half of that highly diversified field. Okay. And also lower plant diversity also leads to the greater loss of soil nutrients. So these are the things. Next. I hope now I have introduced the topic of what is the meaning of ecosystem and biodiversity. And biodiversity within that, what are the different ecosystem services? Just some examples. What is the different services? I mean, supporting services, provisioning services, related services, cultural services. All the examples we have seen. Now we are going into the topic of economic valuation. So, what are the valuation techniques that we are going to see? Till now, is there any doubt? Anything you want to ask me? Anybody is having any doubt? Hello. Coordinators?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. You
Please
said
go.
that they are very active group. They are very much interactive. Either they are ending of fag end of training program, or they are tired, or class is not understanding, or what? No response.
They are good group.
So far so good. Yeah. Anybody is having any doubt? Anything you want to ask me? Yeah, clarity is not there. I may be going fast, or something you are not getting means please ask. So I assume there is no doubt, otherwise there is no clarity. Anyway, I got some guys, isn't it? Giridhar, are you there?
Sir, I am here.
Giridhar was there. Some students. No response. Huh?
Sir, I am here.
Yeah. You are you getting?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
I am seeing some. Yeah. Aditi Agarwal, I am seeing her face. Aditi, are you getting what I am discussing? Can you unmute and speak? Aditi
Yes.
Agarwal.
Yes, sir.
Are you getting what I am saying?
Yes, sir.
So, intangible goods. Can you give some example for intangible goods? Intangible goods or intangible benefits? Can you?
Sir, like for the you explained the example of the groundwater recharge, and it's we can't measure it. Means how many days it will be recharged, like 30 days, 40 days, or in 10 days. It is intangible.
Very good. Very good. Thank you. Yeah. Why we are saying it is intangible? Why it is called non-traded goods? Why we are saying?
Because sir, its cost is not included. It is just naturally it is recharging.
Yeah, it is never traded. It is never being traded. So if paddy is being produced, we are only producing grain and other straws, but we never measure these things. I mean, the other services which is never being accounted, and it is not being traded in the market. That is why it is called intangible benefit and non-traded goods. Okay. Thank you, Aditya. I think she has gone. Connection problem or what are we? Yeah. So total. So we have total economic value. In the total economic value, there are used values, non-used values. So used values, you see that direct used values, indirect used values. So direct used values we can easily understand: food, fish, recreation. These things are directly used, which is directly consumed. Okay, indirect use values are benefits like flood control, storm protection, carbon dioxide stabilization, or ecological functions. These things are indirect things. Another one is optional values, uncertainty over the future demand or availability. Another one is non-used values. That is for future generation also we have to live. We have to give the diversity, isn't it? The existence will give them. Existence value, bequest value, these are the non-used values. These are the direct use values. Direct, indirect use values. These are just it's a classification, how the total economic value of the ecosystem services are there. So this is a classification. Now we will see how it is being evaluated. Next. If we were going to the evaluation, why we need to go for the valuation? Because our quality of life depends not only on the strong economy, but also healthy natural environment. That's what I have started with Delhi. Delhi, somebody wants to live in the Delhi. It not necessarily he has to have the food, cloth and shelter. Along with that, quality air. Of course, 20-30 years back, quality water we never thought. Now quality water. Quality water, it means pure water. Otherwise it is in such a contaminated water we cannot drink. But now we are used to do. That is why quality this water also we are taking into account. But in future, 10 years after, your air purifier also one of the necessary commodity. Those who are living in the city which is having the highly air quality problems. Okay. So that is why we had to measure how much we have to maintain biodiversity, how much we have to pay, how to conserve, those things we need to measure. It's a high time to look into these aspects. And biodiversity, we have certain estimate, isn't it? It is having a major contributor to the economy. And Brazil's some estimate says that 50% of GDP comes from the biodiversity related activities. In Australia, the crop pollination has been calculated around 1.2 billion per annum. So it's a trade-off. It's a trade-off between the biodiversity protection and human activities. See, it's a trade-off in the sense today it's crop residue burning is his condition. Farmers he is supposed to do he is doing, but how much it is going to affect the environment? Okay. So whether residue burning should be there or not. Okay, if it is residue burning is that means it is individually benefit for him. But if it is not there, it is society-wise, it is being benefited. Then, if we want to prevent that change should not be there, that crop residue burning should not be there, then who has to compensate? That is a question. So compensation should come from the government. Okay. So government may be giving certain, I mean, the particular society is getting benefited. They may be collecting certain tax, certain type of green tax or something they can put and they can develop a money. Then it can be used for conservation. I mean, avoiding the crop residual burning. In case of vehicle, we have the taxes for these things also. We are being forced to go for the BS4 or BS5. This system is the diesel system, or I mean fuel system. So that and all we have been paying in order to avoid the less pollution to the environment. So driving is must. That economic activity should happen. If it is happening, how much it is going to affect the environment. So the trade-off we have to measure. So we have to measure and we have to take the corrective measures. That's all. The important thing is that what we are measuring, like GDP growth, all those things we are measuring. Then also we cannot maintain properly, and inflation, all those things we are measuring. Still we are not able to manage. But some of the things we never into account. We never thought. We are not at all measuring this aspect. We are not thinking. Recently, maybe 1 decade, we have started to discuss biodiversity. Especially these things are there in forest and wildlife diversity. Those things are, those people are having estimates. If one lion is there, means how much it is having the environmental benefit. That type of estimates they're having. One tiger is there, means how much it is having the I mean ecosystem services it is providing. That type of estimates are having. But mostly if you see that agro biodiversity, that type of such type of estimates are not there, especially in Indian context. Maybe some of the countries are maybe having that measures we may be applying in Indian context, but we don't have the primary preliminary estimate or field level estimate. We are not having that much. Maybe now slowly started to come about those things. So various ecosystem services for the agriculture that are coming up now. So it is a high time we have to measure such type of things. Next. Hello. Yeah.
Yes, sir. We have moved to the next slide.
Okay. But major problem is that the difficulties in measurement. So the major measurement problem is that the market failures. That means it does not reflect the us. It is being told that it is intangible benefit. It is non-traded, so we cannot measure directly. So that is a major problem. It is mainly public goods conservation. Public goods means it is not excludable, isn't it? If, for example, one conservation park is there, any park, anybody can visit, non-excludable, nobody can, only these people should visit, these people should not visit. It's not there. So non-excludable. At the same time, it is how many people you want to see, you can see. It will not affect the visibility. It's not like food item. Somebody has eaten means it will not be left over. But it is a aesthetic sense. So that type of things are there. Then putting the value for such type of goods, it is very difficult. Okay. And many ecosystems are affected by the externalities. It is not only the negative externalities, it also positive externalities. Both the things are there. For example, some of the factories, they're mixing their wastage with the river. It will have the effect on the river water. Then river water, those are dependent on the irrigation for those things. Then irrigated crops will be affected. It's a very lengthy one. We have to delineate how much is the total ecosystem. What are the different? First thing is that we need to first define the ecosystem. What are the various services are there? Both positive, negative externalities. Everything we have to list out. Then we have to go for the measurement. Next, please. Yeah. So now the techniques are coming. Valuation methods. So basically, if you see that, as I said, if you want to measure certain ecosystem, first thing is that which ecosystem you are going to measure. What is the region? How much is the area? In that particular area, what are the different ecosystem services are? You have to list out. Then you have to find out how many ecosystem I can measure. I mean, how many ecosystem services we can measure. What are the positive services? What are the negative services? Positive externality, negative externality, everything you have to list out. Then you have to come out that. In order to do that, it's not like one method will be applicable for all the services. We need to have, depends upon the context, depends upon the services, we have to use different methods to arrive particular value. So basically there are three methods. market-based techniques, revealed preference techniques, stated preference techniques. Okay, in revealed preference techniques, mitigatory or preventive expenditure approach, replacement cost method, production function method, travel cost method, hedonic pricing. One by one, we are going to see stated preference technique, all those things. Although I am not going to give them hands-on or these things are not I am going to tell. I am going to tell what is the technique where we can use. Okay, so next. So simplest thing is that market-based technique. So market-based techniques, if provisioning services like food, fiber, all those things, it is easy to measure. Okay. Otherwise, if you see that one lake is there, in that lake some wild sort of water contamination is there, that it affects the fish productivity. So very easiest thing is that how much it will take cost for reclaim that lake or original portion, not to bring out how much is the cost being involved, how much is the fish production has increased. So these things are, so we have the ready-made cost for replacement and how much it is the extra production is there. That both things are there, then we can easily measure. But some of the times it may not be that simple. It may have the many other services associated with that, that it will make underestimation. Okay, so next. Yeah. So now let us see that the revealed preference techniques. One is mitigatory or preventive expenditure approach. Okay. Values are inferred from the amount of money the people are willing to spend for preventing particular activity. Otherwise for conservation of biodiversity. For example, you want to see that air pollution, to avoid the air pollution. Okay. In order to crop residue burning, we understand that crop residue burning creates the air quality problem. In order to avoid those things, so how much it will cost? In order to better utilize that residue or better clean that land or field, make it ready for next crop, how much is the cost being involved? In order to avoid the crop residue burning, how much we have to spend? So that is there. That is that type of things. That is being called mitigatory or preventive expenditure approach. So particular things should not happen in order to preserve that particular diversity. If the burning is there, means it may be affecting the entire soil, flora and fauna, everything it will be affected. So in that case, we have to go for the mitigatory approach. Then second thing is that replacement cost. It will be there that how much is the particular land is there, it is getting affected by certain things. Though how much is the land reclamation cost will be there. So saline soil or over exploitation is there, how much we have to spend for bringing into the original land into the fertility. Okay, for example, the same crop is being produced for 2-3 years in the same land. We may be leaving for one time. We may be leaving for fallow for 1 or 2 seasons, so that let it get the fertility bring back. Otherwise, some fertility measures will be taken place. So how much is the cost? In order to bring out the original land fertility condition, how much is the cost being involved? So that is called replacement cost method. Next. Yeah, production function techniques. So it is one of the, I think especially economic students, it is easy to understand. So you understand that yield is a function of land, labor, capital, fertilizer, many variables are there, out of which one more variable will be adding. That is diversity. But it is very difficult to estimate land fertility with a certain estimate. Particular land is there, that land is having fertility level of this much. Another land is there which is not having fertility land. I mean, this level, what is the difference? That if you make it in the certain fertility index, then you take it as one of the variable. Then it will give the what is the productivity due to the particular diversity. So that is the method here, production function approach. You can say that you can see that for example you have taken some 50 farmers paddy cultivators, 51 those who have produced earlier pulses rotation, crop rotation is there. Another land only paddy is there, another land is paddy with the pulses rotations. Okay, then we can assume that this also will be taking as one variable. Simplest method I'm saying that it can be some dummy can be introduced with these things. and we can account that yield difference, how much it is coming, that we can attribute some way. This much is for those are having the crop rotation, those are maintain the crop rotation, those are not maintain the crop rotation. That way we can say production function approach. Next. Yeah, travel cost method. So travel cost method is one thing that ecotourism or park, that case it is there. For such particular park is there. Okay, in the particular park, how much is the people are spending for visiting that particular park, national park, yeah, any location. Otherwise, now you see that agro ecotourism. If Kerala is there, many places it is being developed. So agriculture field is there. In order to visit that agriculture field or agro ecotourism trip, how much is the total amount they are spending? Maybe in a year, maybe 100 visitors are there. Each visitor is having around 10,000 rupees or 5,000 rupees expenditure for that particular visit exclusively. Then we may take it into account that 10,000 into 100, maybe 1 lakh rupees for particular services. So that is the way we have to take. That is travel cost method, which only it is for such type of tourism based one. Okay. But major problem is that its assumption is that the traveling solely for that visiting that site. That is the question. How to apportion? Maybe they may be having different purposes. So that apportioning will be the major problem. Next. Yeah, hedonic pricing method. So I hope some of the people may be aware about this hedonic pricing method. So basically this method has come for house pricing. So if any particular commodity is there, means that particular commodity we have the different characteristics. We have to put the value for the particular each characteristics, each trait you can see. So that decomposition of the, for example, one house is there, that house value is maybe 10 lakhs. That 10 lakhs you have to decompose into that, different characteristics. Maybe you see that same size of land, which is one own house, which is located in Delhi, in the heart of like Pusa Institute. There one location is there, that may be 1 crore. The same size of house, maybe Noida. I mean, each and every aspect, area, size, quality, everything is same. Everything is same. It is located in the Greater Noida. Okay, that may be value around 50 lakhs, but here it is 1 crore. Why? Because we have different attributes: near to school, near to office, near to railway station, near to hospital. So these are the factors. We have to put the value for these things. Although material cost is not the matter, area is same and the same quality of construction material being used, but it is not the same value located in the Greater Noida. So that is the decomposition of each factors, each variables. That is how the hedonic pricing method is coming. So similar is the case with the, for example, land. If you want to put the land, I mean paddy land or land leasing, somebody is taking the land rent or land leasing, paddy for production of paddy land, he may be taking the land leasing. So land leasing, we have the different attributes for that. Okay, whether it is a lowland, upland, whether it is having the irrigation facilities, whether it is easy to access to the main road, whether that particular location is labor availability is there. These are the factors. Finally, fertility of the land. Some land they may be having higher land rent, other land it may not be having the, because he may be maintaining the proper crop rotation, all those things will be there. So in that case, if you see, according to that, the land value will be changing. So one of the case you can study such type of things, land value. So in that, land fertility or biodiversity, one of the factor you take and decompose it, then you can put the value for that. So there it comes the hedonic pricing method. Next comes to the contingent valuation method. In contingent valuation method means the people will be given different choices, I mean different conditions, hypothetical scenarios. So how much they are willing to pay for particular services. Okay. So they will be willing to pay. How much they are willing to pay for in order to maintain particular ecosystem, maybe biodiversity. So one village particular pond is there, not village pond is there. In order to maintain the proper pond, how much each one is ready to contribute for that one, monthly or yearly, maybe yearly 100 rupees they are ready to pay each villagers. How much we are ready to pay for maintaining the particular pond, so that it can be used for all irrigation, drinking water. It may be used for other purposes also. In order to properly maintain that, how much they're ready to pay. So we may be generating the different scenario, and we may be asking them to put the value for that. Based on that also we can come. So this is people's willingness to pay. I think these things are required detailed class for each method. I'm just introducing the topic. Contingent valuation, one of the things. It has a single bound contingent valuation, double bound contingent valuation. There are many methods are there. So this is one of the techniques we can use for valuation of ecosystem services. Next. Yeah, choice modeling also, again, we will be giving the different preferences. There are different preferences, then we will be asking them to rank which one we'll be choosing. So based on that we will be choosing and what maybe this much lake is there. If you may maintain this much, you can use this much for irrigation, this much for drinking water. Like that you may have a different scenario. If you take these are the measures, if you take, it can be used for even drinking water also. If you only take this measure, it can only used for irrigation purpose. If you take if you spend some more amount, we may have the certain boating club also. Like that different scenarios will be developed, then we'll be asking them to choose, and we'll be asking them to give the values. Next. Yeah, benefit transfer method. It is one of the easiest method. It is in fact it's not a valuation approach. Benefit transfer. Some similar conditions somewhere, some location is there. Okay, this paddy provides, these are the ecosystem services, like that. Somebody has estimated, for example, Tamil Nadu, some studies have conducted. Then same values we take it into Uttar Pradesh. Then we multiply it the same values. Food services, ecosystem services. Ecosystem services, food, water, raw material, air quality, climate, like that. Somebody has estimated the same value. We will put it into other locations, and we multiply and we'll get the value. That is benefit transfer method. So this is one of the study done in the Indra Devi and co-workers, which is published in EPW. So they have taken simply from other countries, not in the other location. Within India, we don't have such a comprehensive ecosystem services value. They have taken from the other countries' value. Then they have estimated that cultivated cropping ecosystem, it provides around 2,76,000. But actually, what we are measuring is that only 97,000 is the food values. Food values only 1 lakh. You can say that 1 lakh. Other unaccounted value is around 2.7 lakhs. That is what their conclusion. Next. Yeah. So I have another 5-10 minutes, I think. Yeah. Praveen, am I correct? 15 minutes is there, no? 5-10 minutes I have to wind up. Yeah?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah. So 2 case studies example I will be discussing. So one is we have done in case of valuation of ecosystem services in pulse crop based ecosystem services. Next. Yeah, as I already told that traditional cost of cultivation, I have already mentioned that land, labor, seed, fertilizer, these are the costs we are taking into account. We never take into account other costs. So in the ecosystem services perspective, it's only one small part. Only in provisioning services, also food and fiber and fuel. Only these 2 things we are taking into account. We never take into account genetic resources, other supporting regulatory services. Okay. So we try to estimate through different methods. So very preliminary analysis. Yeah. Next. So first thing is that we want to understand that what is the awareness level among the farmers or the people about this various ecosystem services. Whether do you understand, do you know these things? These are the services also provided by the ecosystem, like that. First awareness level. After awareness level, then we are asking them to put the value. So how much you are ready to conserve or willing to pay for these things. So that is the question being asked to them. Yeah, next. So this study was conducted in Telangana region in 3 districts. Next. Among the 180 pulse growing farmers. Next. So we wanted to mainly analyze the non-marketed ecosystem services. Other services are, we have already methods are there. I mean, cost and returns already there. Only non-marketed ecosystem services, how much it is the value. So we just gone for the survey willingness to pay based. So what we did is that we first explained them about what are the various services provided by the ecosystem services like genetic resources, habitat, flora, fauna. So how much they are accept it, whether yes, it is providing. I was not aware, but yes, I am accepting. Some of the people aware and not aware, not accepting also will be there. So based on that, then we have given the, we have gone for the double one discrete choice contingent variation method, and various bits value have been taken. Next. Next. I think these are the model. I don't want to go for detail of these things. Next, I just want to go to the result. Yeah, first, if you see that what is the awareness level among the farmers is means mainly everybody is having high regard for the cultural services. They want to maintain, especially the tribes people are, why they are going for this wild varieties and all means we want to maintain. This is our religious value or aesthetic value, whatever maybe. They are having high value for that. Of course, after that, then people very much understand is that it avoids the soil erosion, improves the soil fertility. These are the awareness level. Mainly genetic resources and all, they are not very much aware, but they are accepting. Yes, once we explain, then they will be accepting. Genetic, the wild varieties, which is from this only, there are new varieties are coming out. The wild genes or resistant genes are developed from the wild varieties. So you are mainly providing the local addresses is useful for developing further varieties, new varieties. Those things we have explained, then they have accepted. Okay, so these are the awareness level. Next. Yeah. So here, finally, we have found the value of how much you are ready to pay for these things. So they have the estimation comes around 29,000 per hectare it comes. So when compared to the cultivated ecosystems, the other study have worked out around 1.7 lakh is the non-marketed values. In that conditions, if you see that the farmers in our Indian context, how much they are ready to, how much they are valuing, how much is the value for the ecosystem services which we have listed out. For that, how much value they are attaching. So that is comes around 30,000 per hectare. Next. Yeah. So we have taken the weights because these are the services we have asked, and based on the awareness level, we have asked the weights and we have apportioned the total value into the different services. Next, around 4,000 to 5,000 it was the range. So basically what I was saying, around today maybe 100 rupees per kg we are paying the Arhar dal, but it's not the 100 rupees. It may be around 139 rupees. The ecosystem services, if you value take into account, it may come around 139 rupees per kg. Okay, that's what our study is finding in the case of pulse. Then next study we have, yeah, Praveen, next. Yeah, so valuation of paddy land ecosystem in I already said that Wayanad, the Wayanad name itself says that the land of field of paddy field. But it is now the mostly from the paddy itself they are being converted into other crops like banana or commercial crops. But otherwise, then government has given certain policy measures. This Land Act, Wayanad Wetland Protection Act. In that they have given the punishment of 50,000 up to fine up to 50,000 they have put. Then also farmers Rather converting the paddy field to other land, they are just leaving it a fallow. If they are going for banana, then they may be fined. So they are not going for paddy also, leaving it for fallow also. That as the case is there. So in that case, we have surveyed around 200 farmers and total value of ecosystem services and these services also we have taken. We have taken marketed goods, all the food and fiber we have taken. So if you see that this diagram says that first thing is that Wayanadu we have taken. In the Wayanadu, we have defined the area. We have chosen them. What are the different services it is provided by the paddy ecosystem. We have classified 4 ecosystem services, out of which many services we have listed out. But what we have measured is darkened, that is blue color, dark. If, for example, provisioning service means food, fiber, micronutrients, and fuel also there. We are not taking the account of fuel. These 3 we have taken. In regulating services, flood mitigation is there, groundwater recharge is there, water purification is there, biodiversity conservation is there. But we are taking only flood mitigation, groundwater recharge. Due to the data availability, due to coefficients availability, we could not take all the things. But what are the possible things we have taken? And supporting services, nitrogen fixation is there, soil erosion prevention is there. These services, methane emission, those things we have taken into account. Next. Yeah, again the example, marketed goods. Marketed goods, we have used simple grain straw values. We have already well-known established cost and returns methods are there. Second services is micronutrient content. Especially local land races are having highly, nutrient in this, maybe paddy, zinc, high zinc value will be there, or other things are there. So in that case, what we did is that if you take a replacement cost method, if 1 kg of paddy if you are consuming, in that maybe some 10 microgram values, if just for sample I'm taking, it may not be true value, 10 micrograms is there. If the same 1 kg of local rendices you take, maybe 20 micrograms will be there. Those are having the iron deficiency or zinc deficiency, whatever may be, then they may be prescribed by the doctors to take for the zinc tablets. Okay, in that case, how much they have to spend in the tablet value. So that we have taken as a replacement cost method. That based on that we have estimated this one. I mean, say how much is the micronutrient provisioning coming from the local residences. Next. So flood mitigations. So replacement cost method. Wayanad sometimes that during the rainy seasons it will be so much flooding will be there. Not to avoid those things, the paddy land flooding means it may be affecting the soil erosion, soil texture, everything will be changed. But paddy cultivation, it holds the water. During the rainy season, it may hold water up to 1 feet, 2 feet, whatever maybe. So it controls the flood. So in order to do that, again we have applied a replacement cost method. If in order to protect the land from the flooding, how much we may be spending for construction of dams or check dams. So those will be taken into account and we have used here. Next. Next. Yeah, groundwater recharge. Again, same replacement cost method. We have taken the values from the in our own data is that how much is the each farmer, how much is the height of the water maintained during the production season, and how much is the how many days he has maintained. These things are taken into account, and if this much height is maintained, what will be the recharging capacity? This many days it is the means what is the recharging capacity? That values we have taken from the other studies. Then by applying this one, we have estimated the groundwater recharge. Next. Yeah, nitrogen fixation. If not only pulses also fix the nitrogen, and paddy also produces a nitrogen fixation also. So how much it is being fixed? So nitrogen, this one is a benefit transfer method. We have taken other studies values and we have applied and we have estimated. So how much nitrogen will be fixed, and nitrogen fertilizer price values are there. Based on that we have estimated. Of course, soil erosion method also we have taken benefit transfer method from some other studies we have taken. We don't have use any coefficient from our data. Other studies we have taken and applied in our case. Next. So finally, we have estimated the values. Of course, if you see that marketed goods in the diagram, it comes around only 23% only marketed goods value. Remaining 77% is coming out the non-marketed or I mean unaccounted values. So we are paying paddy means 50 rupees means that is only 23% of the total ecosystem perspectives. Remaining is huge. Here even disservices also we have taken that I have not discussed here, but disservices also methane emission values are there, that also we have taken into account. And finally we have estimated that the total ecosystem services of paddy is 6.27 to 6.26 lakhs per hectare. But if you take into account only market and value of system, it is only 1.44 lakhs per hectare. That is what estimated. Then our policy suggestion is that in the Wayanad district is around 7,000, I think 7,000 or 8,000 hectare area is there. If in that area we are, if you take into account the non-marketed services value, it comes around 375 crores. 375 crores per season it comes. So we have estimated now already government is paying some 10,000 rupees per hectare. Now the subsidy is justified because the value which is unaccounted, that value we are giving. So otherwise government may think that this much is spending, or somebody may question why we have to give 10,000 rupees per hectare for the farmer, we are giving so much subsidies. It is not only giving the subsidy, but it's, if you consider that local land bases are paddy in that particular region, it is going to give them 375 crores unaccounted values. That is what our policy suggestion. Next. So especially when we are designing the minimum support prices, all those things, these are also things also we had to take into account. And main thing is that this 375 rupees value we have estimated. Now the payment for ecosystem services, who will pay? How to get the money or resources to be attained in order to give this those who are supplying this ecosystem services supplier, that is farmer in this case, how they will be paid and who will be paying that one. That is in the question. In further we are addressing those things in the further studies. I think with this I have concluded.